Hello guys and welcome to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how I made these jogger sweats and hooded sweater set. So if you're interested in how I achieve this look, please stay tuned. Alright guys, let's get started. For the joggers, I'll be using 2 yards of fleece and a pair of my husband's jogger sweats for the pattern. I'll be using scissors, pins, and measuring tape. I fold horizontally on the direction of the grain of the fabric that has more stretch. Then I take the sweatpants and fold them to the back and place them directly over the fold. I cut starting from the bottom, then all the way around the pants with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Following the same steps, I fold the fabric over again, this time folding the pants to the front, then cutting around with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. I also cut the fold open on both sides. Now I have the front and back pieces cut. I also cut the leg bands, the waistband, and the pocket pieces, which I have a tutorial for that I'll link below. Also the pocket piece for the back pocket. I grabbed both front pant pieces, 2 pocket pieces, then lined them together in the right hand corner. Now I'm going to cut the opening for the pocket. First I measured 5 inches down along the side, then pinned at that point. Then measured in 2.5 inches at the top and pinned at that point. I cut a slit at both points, then removed both pins, then continued to cut the curve from one point to the other. I put the pocket pieces aside and separate both front pieces. I lay them flat, then line the pocket pieces on top on each side. Now they're ready to sew along the curve. Here I've sewn the 2 pocket pieces on and top stitched. For more detailed instructions, you can check out the link below for my pocket tutorial. I flip both front pieces to the back. I grab both of the other pocket pieces, then line them up to the pocket pieces on each side. Then I take both of those pocket pieces and sew along the curve. Here's what that looks like when they've been sewn together. I'm going to flip one side to the front and lay the other side to the back. And here's what the pocket looks like from the outside, and here's what the pocket looks like from the inside. I place the side front facing down on top of the side front facing up, then sew along that curve. Here's what it looks like after attaching both sides together. Next I grab the pocket piece, and from the top I fold down 1 inch, then sew that down. After sewing that down, I'm going to fold the pocket in half. Then I'm going to cut the corners. Now I have the final shape to my pocket. I grab the right backside piece, then I place the pocket piece on top and position it to my liking. I fold a 1/2 inch in and pin on each side. Now it's ready to be top stitched. After attaching the pocket, I lay the side front side up. Then I lay the other side on top, front facing down. Then I sew down along the curve. After attaching the back of the pants together, I lay them front facing up. Then I lay the front of the pants on top, front facing down. Now I'm going to sew the sides together, starting from the very top all the way down to the bottom. I take the center seams and pin those together. From that point, I sew down both sides. After sewing those two pieces together, I'm now going to attach the waistband. The waistband isn't as wide as the opening of the pant, but it will be stretched to fit as I sew. I sew the end of the waistband together. I line the seams together and fold the waistband in half. I fold the waistband in half and pin at the center point on one side. From that point, I measure 1 inch over and 1.5 inches up and mark at that point. I do the same for the other side. After making my 2 points, I grab my buttonhole presser foot and find a button with the length to my liking. Then I place it inside the presser foot. I switch the presser foots and set my machine to the buttonhole stitch. Then I sew at each point. I carefully open the buttonholes with my seam ripper. Now I have 2 clean openings for my drawstring. I line the seams together and pin. I continue to fold the waistband in half and pin at the other side. I fold the waistband in half and pin at the center point in the front and the back. I pull the pants through and line the raw end of the waistband and the pants together. Then I pin at the 2 seams on the side and the 2 seams at the center, front, and back of the pant. Remember, the waistband will be stretched to fit. Next, I grab both leg bands, fold them in half, and sew down the ends. After trimming away a little of the excess fabric, I line the seams together and fold the leg bands in half. I pull the pant leg through and line the raw edges together, then line and pin the seam of the band and the leg together. I also pin the other half point of the band and the pant leg together. The leg bands will also be stretched to fit. After pinning the pins down, they're ready to sew. After attaching the waistband and the leg bands, the final step is to add the drawstring, which I already pre-hemmed. I take a safety pin and attach it to one end of the drawstring. Then I push it through one side of the opening, then continue to push and pull until I get through to the other side of the opening. When I get through to the other side, I remove the safety pin. Then I pull both ends of the drawstrings together and stretch the waistband and continue to pull and stretch until the drawstring is well adjusted. And now the pants are done. Now for the sweater, I'll be using the same pattern pieces I made in my fleece hoodie tutorial, which I'll link below. All the pieces have been pre-cut, including the front and back of the sweater, the sleeves, the hood, the sleeve and sweater band, and the front pocket as well. I take the front pocket piece, then I fold in a 1/2 inch at the opening of the pockets, pin that down, and sew. After sewing the openings down, I set the pocket to the side. Then I grab the front piece of the sweater, fold it in half at the bottom, and pin at the center point. I find the center point to the pocket and line those two together and pin. I fold a 1/2 inch across the top of the pocket and a 1/2 inch on the sides of the pockets and pin. Now I'm going to top stitch across the top and the sides. Next, I lay the front and the back piece together, front facing in. Then I line and pin the shoulders together. Now they're ready to sew. After attaching the shoulders, I line the center point of the sleeve to the shoulder seam and pin. Then I continue pinning down both sides of the sleeve to the opening of the armhole. Now that's ready to sew. After attaching the sleeves, I pin the underarm seams together and sew straight down the sides, starting from the sleeve to the bottom of the sweater. Next, I grab the 4 hood pieces, separate them in 2s, and sew along the curve. After sewing those together, I set one aside. At the bottom, I measure 1 inch from the end, then 1.5 inches up, and mark at that point. Then I do the same at the other end. I'm going to use my buttonhole presser foot and the same button to sew buttonholes at those 2 points. Then I carefully cut the buttonholes open with my seam ripper. I place the hoods together front facing in and pin the seams together at the top. Then I sew along the curve at the top of the hood. After sewing the hood together, I cut off the excess fabric across the top. I turn the hood inside out and tuck one side into the other, making sure the buttonholes are visible on the outside. I open the hood and sew across the top again. I make sure to start and end about 1/4 of an inch away from both of the buttonholes. And here's what that looks like once it's finished. I grab the sweater and pin at the center point of the back collar. I line the seam at the bottom of the hood with the center point of the back collar and pin together. I continue to pin along both sides until I get to the shoulder seams. At that point, I stop to pin the center point of the front collar. Then I overlap the ends of the hood about 1 inch over from the center point and pin on both sides. After pinning the hood, it's ready to sew. Here's what the hood looks like after it's been attached. Moving on to the bands for the sweater. I take the bottom band and both of the sleeve bands and fold them in half. Then I sew down all the ends. I fold the seams together and continue folding the band in half all the way around. I pin at the seam, then I pin at the other half and the center point in the front and the back. I fold the bands of the sleeves in half, then I pin the seams together and pin at the other half point. I take the sweater and at the bottom I pin the center point at the front and the back of the sweater. Now I have 4 points at the bottom. I take the band and pull the sweater through, then line the seams together and pin, and continue pinning at all 4 points. The bottom of the band will also be stretched to fit as I sew. I take and pin at the other half of the sleeve. I pull the sleeve through the band and line the seams together and pin. Then I pin at the other half. This will be stretched to fit as well. I've attached all 3 bands and they're ready to be sewn. Here's what they look like after they've all been attached. Lastly, I'm going to add the drawstring to the hoodie. Following the same steps as the waistband, I took a safety pin and attached it to one end of the drawstring. I push it through the opening, then continue to push and pull until I get to the other side. I remove the safety pin when I get through to the other side. Then again, I pull the ends of the drawstring and continue to stretch and pull until the drawstring is well adjusted. After adding the drawstring, the sweater is now complete. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!